we all win and lose.
That doesn't look very good.
I could tell by your face that he's fucking my shit up.
Dude, you made it worse!
What do you mean? It's perfect.
Wow, it smells kind of strong, too.
What does it smell like?
Paint?
Yeah, I don't even want to know, man.
Wait, he's sponsored by Cloud9, so we got put a little C9 in here, too. Woo! Woo!
I'm giving you an energy because you never really lost faith except when you did.
We could put some fucking lightning on his head. Rah, there we go. Woo!
I just gotta tell you, Kobe did you dirty. You got fucking shit up more.
I gotta see this. Wow, okay.
See, you gotta get in there.
Yeah.
It's like a chunk.
I just got some hanging off.
It's looking chunky there.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Hello and welcome to The Dive, driven by IKEA Season 8, Episode 30, as well as driven by some clowns. That's us, because we all lost the bet.
Dude, mine didn't work.
The DIVEYS.
I'm sure that...
Sorry to all audio listeners. I'm sure that was horrible.
I'm sure this sound... They're going to have to do some magic to the sound at the beginning of this one. That was loud. And it's also getting kind of smoky. How about that? How about we're done
How
with
many...
that now?
What number of DIVEYS is this now? This is the fourth split Ewell? The fifth split
I'm going to say fifth.
Fifth split Ewell DIVEYS.
Yep.
Welcome to it. We all lost the bet. I really didn't think it was possible. 3 people who are paid
I thought it was possible.
to predict this full time. We've once again astounded ourselves.
It just feels right for all of us. All of us to be clowns.
I
I would
blame
like
C9.
I would like to put it out there that I have no idea what I look like. I have not, looked at my phone or anything.
Same.
It's artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all looking beautiful because, of course, we made the bet. We made the bet on who was going to win the LCS.
Yep.
Me and Isaac both chose Team Liquid.
Yep.
Meteos chose Cloud9, and FlyQuest won. So congratulations to FlyQuest. We're going to get right into our DIVEYS awards. And the first award on the show, in fact, is actually going to be Best Game of the Split, which is an award that we always give out. But this one we kind of got to cheat because the last game of the split is the game that actually wins the award. The last game of TL versus FlyQuest was insane with the minions actually ending. Blippo's teleport didn't even have to finish for them to win.
That was just everything leading up to it. The ending was just so amazing in the most anticlimactic way ever. It was like, these two teams have been facing off throughout the split. Liquid usually getting the upper hand, but FlyQuest, fighting back and doing better and better. And then it seemed like FlyQuest was just about to throw the whole series into a game 5. Everyone's ready for the silver scrapes, and then the game just ends for minions.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, that's definitely the craziest ending to any LCS series ever.
Yeah,
I think
by a lot.
By a lot, yeah. Probably the craziest ending or one of the craziest endings to any series I've ever watched. There's a few that would be up there as far as most shocking. It's interesting. I haven't actually gone back yet and tried to figure out could they should they have one from this spot? Could they have one from this spot? Yeah, because initially
they could
in the moment I was like, oh, if they left one person back, they would win. But then I wasn't really sure because then it's okay, well, but if Garen TP's in and Core or Lilia is there, can they delay enough, or does the Garen kill the Nexus too fast? I wasn't sure. I haven't actually gone back and rewatched it.
From memory, I would say yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I went back and watched it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, definitely could have.
Okay, that's what I thought in the moment is if they left one person back that they forced the game 5 because they even had 6 scrubs that game, right? I think it doesn't matter.
Maybe
either way. They had Tristana and they
did because I remember seeing
Tristana, Kai'Sa, right?
multiple Void Mites pop out.
Yeah, 6 scrubs, Tristana, Kai'Sa, they would kill those towers so fast. Busio did a good job pulling the wave and kind of making them waste time. And then it's hard to blame them because in the moment your adrenaline is just going so crazy. And I would be really interested in hearing the comms. My guess is ever just screaming and when they win that fight because it came out of nowhere. It looked like they were getting dominated throughout a lot of that game. I felt like they had been fully outscaled, and then they get a pick, and all of a sudden they're winning the fight. They're killing everyone, and you're like, oh my god, they're actually gonna win. They're actually gonna go game 5. And then as soon as the picture-in-picture popped up and I saw the Supermans, I was like, they lost.
Yeah, I saw that Whipple was spawning, and I expected him to TP. I didn't think the minions would just actually end the game. That is so unheard of, even in solo queue. For just, I don't know. I feel like minions don't own that hard usually. It was just a combination of the fact that it was the bottom inhib. Usually, like mid inhib supers will almost never do that because, like just the way the wave comes in, it never really builds up that huge. But in the side lanes, it can, and yeah, like. I remember watching a casual reaction to it, and he started mentioning that like the wave was building almost at like the halfway point, and that lets like once 2 or 3 super minions get going together, like it's actually
Pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, like I mean you need a champion there 100%. Like the minions won't do anything to it anymore. So yeah, it happened, and obviously from our perspective, everyone's saying like, dude, how did TL not see that? But they had a lot going on. They were just about to lose the series before that. They were coming back. They're like just thinking, can we end? Not thinking like, can the Winions end?
I mean, watching the co-stream reactions like you're talking about back, also a lot of the co-streamers also didn't notice until they're at the Nexus and it's like 2 hits away too. So
yeah,
I'm gonna remember that moment forever because it's so clear in my head. Looking at the Nexus, looking up at Flowers, looking over at Azael, and we're all like, "Oh my god, they actually are going to lose after they just won such a huge, literally series-saving team fight."
Yeah,
and then the series is no longer saved. I was just immediately thinking of the emotions, like how would those players feel? Every Team Liquid member, just went from ecstatic, one of the best feelings you can have, saving an entire series in finals, to immediately the solo queue drop off of, oh no, we threw it or we lost, and just having the pit in your stomach afterwards.
Yeah.
It's crazy whiplash.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That's got to be one of the worst feeling losses. I remember Impact was laughing when FlyQuest like walked over for the fist bumps because it's just like you're in disbelief. You're like, wow, that just happened. Like it's one thing to lose, it's another thing to lose like that. Like they're not going to forget that anytime soon.
Yeah, well, and it hurts more because I know they've been saying they didn't care about it the whole split, the whole season, whatever. But then they kind of admitted it after, where they're like, yeah, we were trying to do the undefeated season, right? Like, and you were. So close to being able to get it, and then you have that fight, and you're like, "Oh, the hope is still alive. We can win finals. We can repeat. We can go for the undefeated season." And then it ends like that. It was crazy. That game definitely going to be living rent free in my head for a long time. That is a tough one to top as far as the end of it. The next award, this is one that we actually had during the All-Pro voting. So people were able to vote, players, pros, coaches, media, whatever. Whoever wanted to vote was able to vote on a couple of these. This was one of them. Is which pro talked the best split? APA was the runaway winner. No surprise there. And then tied for second, actually, was JoJo and Bwipo.
I mean, honestly, I agree, except JoJo didn't actually talk that much, I feel like. So that one felt a little bit off. Bwipo definitely did, because the second biggest story of LCS was Bwipo and Inspired talking their split, even about like previous teammates and stuff.
Scratched myself and there's a blob. Okay.
Yeah, I ate this party string about halfway through a sentence already. We get that out of here. But yeah, I think it's always going to APA because, even the whole branding, and this does feel like a branded award. I like how the name of the award even is.
Good job, Mark C. Sliding that in there.
This is the corporate award that we're giving out on the show.
It's a sponsored Mark C award.
Even the branding around our split was really created in reaction to APA's typing that he did in spring and has been doing even previous to finding success in the LCS, and fans really reacting to it. When we started showing it on broadcast and decided to make it a focal point for people, because people, really, it just makes people more invested to have more stories and, more personality come out. And so, they designed the whole branding around our split because of it. So if APA didn't win this award, it would be kind of feel weird.
Well, one of the things that really surprised me is I knew fans would like it and would find it interesting, the trash talk, personality, all that. But how much other pros that I didn't expect to jump on it have also jumped on it, like Impact. I never would have pegged Impact to be an all chat trash talker, and he was doing it on stage in finals, right? Like, he's just like having Bubba the clam Dwan and like, calm down, and they're like, no way you're typing to me right now, and hitting him with a question mark after he kills him and stuff. Like he was in there, right? And it's really funny to see how much he has actually kind of set the trend for the league, and it's showing more personality. I think it's more that kind of banter, and I like it. And I do think that there is a big difference between this and some of the, like, I know sometimes people always say, how can you promote this? You're just promoting all the toxicity in solo queue. I think there's a very big difference between like the light banter type stuff that we see in LCS and some of the heinous stuff that people do and say in solo queue. So I think it's not even on the same spectrum. And I like it. I enjoy that the players are kind of like creating more of those rivalries and being able to express more of those rivalries, because that's something that I always, if you watch CB LOL, I was watching the CB LOL finals, and like some of the players just jumping up and like, yelling at the other team when they have a good play and stuff, and like popping off to the crowd, and it's just fun. It's just fun to watch.
Yeah, I think part of what makes it special to me is I feel like who I would give the best award to, like APA definitely deserves the split. I feel like if Dig did better, then Jensen would have been in the running, because Jensen has some funny one-liners. Yeah. I feel like a huge part of like talking good split is like the lightheartedness and if it's witty and funny, right? Because sometimes it feels a little cringy if you're just typing to yourself and like, it's clear that whole other team's muted you and what you're saying is not really funny. Yeah. Like, to me, that doesn't hit right. Yeah. But when it's actually like really funny and like, I don't know, topical. I remember one from APA in the beginning of this split when he was playing in Shopify and they were just doing nothing. And I think it was either at the end of the first or second game and he just goes, when does Shopify play? Like, it's just so funny.
I like some of the self-owned ones too and stuff, like, because APA obviously for a while like had that reputation of being like this trash mid laner and like how he's even in the league and this sort of stuff. And like I remember him having some trash talk along the lines of like, like imagine losing to APA and like that kind of thing. Like I think that stuff's pretty funny.
Yeah, he memes on himself for being a one trick all the time as a big insult. To your point on the Jensen one, my favorite one was actually from Spring when he was still on FlyQuest, and he made fun of TL. When TL just released that video, can a gold player survive a game in the LCS? And then they had just released this social, and it had gotten pretty big, views and stuff, and it was really funny and popular. And then after they play and they beat him, Jensen tweets out, "Well, I guess not." And I was like, "Oh my!" He used their own content against them, like
that type was really good.
That type of like topical one, those ones really hit diff. Like the ones that kind of use your own stuff against you were really, really good. But yeah, it has made it super fun. And not even just the in-game typing, but we also are getting a lot of out-of-game reactions to your point, talking about like, Counter-Strike and stuff where, and Valorant, when the shooting games, when they have more time and they can get up and they're the ones who like do the, flexing or, getting physical is pretty funny. Snipers dancing and doing all that stuff up there too is pretty fun.
All right, next award we have here is the 1v9 award, and this one's going to go to Impact's Mordekaiser versus 100 Thieves. You two both voted for this one.
Yeah, that as soon as we were like, oh, we're going to do a 1v9 award, I was like, it has to be Impact. I remember that Mordekaiser game so clearly. He absolutely had to 1v9. It had both elements. A lot of times we'll have one player like have a really good series, like Quad got like 17 kills or something in this single game, but Impact, his own team started throwing. They were winning the beginning of the game, and Impact is on Mordekaiser like 1v2ing, and then the only team fights that they win is when he teleports in and goes down there, and he wins the team fight for them, and he gets the objectives for them. And I just thought this one was so fitting. He was an absolute beast. That was kind of the moments where I had already had in my head, I was like, he's probably my front runner for like MVP right now because he's just doing so much for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that game really well for the same reason. Just all the plays, because it really felt like his team was just letting him down as hard as possible, but he refused to lose. Yeah. He had this one play in that game where it basically completely flipped the momentum, where I think like he was last seen top, he recalled, he like walks to bot side of mid, like avoiding all the wards, hides in the line brush, waits for 100 Thieves to push up, and then he walked in and ulted Ezreal and just like started the winning fight. And it was just so crazy. Like it really was just the most 1v9 top lane game I've seen in a hot minute in the whole split. So definitely got to give it to him for that one.
Those games I feel like are the most fun if you're playing because if your team is doing too well and you're having a really like pop off game in solo queue or whatever, the other team's gonna FF. So like, do you have that feeling sometimes when you're having a really good game? You kind of want someone on your team to start doing badly, so that you can keep playing because you want to be that OP person.
I have not had that feeling. I'm like, we got to end now, or else someone's gonna throw it for real.
Your champ falls off after like level 3.
Yeah. But I think that can be super fun where it's like if you're playing a scaling champ and you're like 6-0 at the beginning of the game, you're like, I want this game to go long.
I was playing Smolder last night, and I had that exact feeling.
Yeah.
I had like 400 stacks. It was the most OP I've ever felt. Like, Jungle doesn't get these feelings. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You guys are playing with fire. I feel like that's way too much faith in being able to actually end the game later.
I don't care about the LP. I want to just feel strong. I just want to own noobs.
Fair enough. I've been traumatized. I play too much early game champions.
Yeah, honorable mention, speaking of scaling champs, to Quad, who got that 17 kill Zeri game, where whatever you want to call it, hitting for the cycle, whatever. He individually in separate plays got a single kill, a double kill, triple kill, quadra kill, and a pentakill, which it was the first time I believe in any major region that it ever happened, and only third time in professional LoL history that it happened. It happened one time in OS, and then I can't remember the other region honestly, but. Was pretty crazy, and that game was definitely a monster performance. Even though I would agree it wasn't as like 1v9. Absolutely.
Yep. Next award we have the best play of the split, and my vote for this one was the TL Wombo combo against Energy, where so the setup for the play was Energy was grouping to retake Vision, and APA was pushing bottom. So Energy they weren't fully respecting TL, but it basically was when Core got like the 5-man rel engage and then just crazy follow-up from everyone on the team. There was like a Lily asleep and Ezra ult that just went through everybody, and it was just such a clean team fight. And part of what made the play so cool to me is, aside from just the fact that, obviously it was a sick wombo, it was the way that TL set it up using the mind games, because, APA was bought, and normally when you're outnumbered in League, it's like you fall back, right?
Yep.
You don't want to force a fight while you're outnumbered. But what TL did was they recognized that Energy was disrespecting. Like, they weren't checking the brushes. Core was sitting in the top line brush on a pink. Energy was way too stacked. And then Impact also sold it really well. Rather than, standing there looking like he was trying to go for a fight, he was backing up, which gave Energy that false confidence. Because, anytime there's a sick play, you could say the receiving team like messed up, which obviously Energy did, but at the same time, you put yourself in their shoes. Was what they did reasonable? Kind of, yeah. Like, a lot of the time when you have that number advantage and you're retaking control, they will just give everything. So super sick play by TL. I think they made a lot of them this split, but that one really stood out to me.
Yep. Next award here, this one's for consistency, for a team that has been able to really maintain their level of play for many, many years. We're very impressed, and congratulations to Immortals.
Oh, man.
They have remained consistent since they've, came into franchising. They have placed similarly in almost every single split.
They were 8th, which is last, by the way.
8th out of
So last, second or last, and last again. And then if you go into the lock-in tournament, also technically eliminated 9 and /10 tied there. So they have had very consistent performances.
Very consistent.
Or finishes, at least.
Yep. Yeah, well, congratulations for that. On to the next
On to the next award. Yeah, get us out of here.
You want to do the next one?
Honestly, the next one was Best Interview, and we have had a lot of good interviews this split, so this one was pretty hard. But I liked Meteos' submission at the very beginning, the Dignitas interview that Sven did in Happier Times for Dignitas, the beginning of Dig season.
Yeah, because this one was when Valorant shoved us into the lockers, and it was, they were playing from the closet, and I think it was Jat doing the interview where everyone's just
huddled around.
Yeah, it's kind of like a full team interview, and it was just so fun. You really got to see a lot of their personality, their banter, and yeah, it ended with the classic, what season is it?
Yeah,
big season.
Yeah, exactly. I loved how he delivered it too, because he goes, Jet, what season is it? And Jet's like, season 14 or something, and and he's like, dig season.
It was so good because he so clearly got Jet. He didn't see it coming at all. So well done. It's been an absolute performer.
Yeah, that one was really funny. Next one, we're given the Best Celebration Award here. We're talking about, out of game celebration, what people are doing on stage, the pop-offs, all this kind of stuff. And this one I feel like has to go to Sniper. His reactions on camera are just so funny. From the 100 Thieves and Mode stuff to when they're playing against C9. And when they were playing at C9, watching the player cams more than anything was how I started to really believe that C9 was going to lose to them, because Sniper is just dancing. He's just, hitting them with this and stuff on the cams, and C9 players are looking so sad. And he just had so many little funny moments and pop-off moments that his energy just comes through, and it's pretty fun to watch.
He really had that energy of the kid living his dreams of being a pro gamer, which I think every pro gamer has probably had that moment where, you go from just this kid sitting in your room playing games, and because I had this when I was in college. I remember back in season 1 or 2 watching the pro league, and I think it was specifically Hotshot GG. I remember watching his stream or something and being like, wow, this guy is really living the life. He's a pro player. He is so lucky. I can't believe he gets to do this. And then a year or two later, I was doing the same thing. So it was super surreal, just making that transition. And we get to basically live through Sniper and see him do it in real time, just experiencing all the joy of his first experiences.
It's crazy. He made Worlds, right? His first year. I think that's pretty crazy. He really is living the dream, right? You're 17, you become a pro as soon as it is literally possible, because you can't do it at 16, and he makes Worlds his first split.
That's my favorite part, is that it's infectious, that we all get to live vicariously through him. I'll say it every time.
His joy.
Every time I walk down the hallway, the old veterans, everyone's seen me so many times before. They're just oh yeah, good morning, hi. It's another day at work or whatever. And then I'm walking down the hallway, and Sniper's coming from makeup or something, and he's like, Kobe, are you ready for today? I'm like, oh my God. He just gave me youth, I was so excited. So happy, and it just makes the whole studio feel more alive. I would say honorable mention to Bwipo for this one, especially in finals.
His evil laughs were so funny.
In the finals, he was it was crazy. I have not seen someone on stage with that much energy and that much every single
play. Time.
Every single play, because he knew it. He was oh my God, they were up to elimination game in the series, and he's just the top laner is right next to us because casters were in the middle. And so I could see him, and his leg is just shaking the whole time. He's smiling, leaning super far forward. It was he could not get enough of this. The feeling that you both were talking about of I want a teammate to int so my game can last longer and I can feel, I'm the winner for longer. Almost, I saw that in Bwipo. He was he felt like he was the winner for so long. And obviously it's because he was second place for so long. But man, yeah, his reactions and emotes are always really, really big.
Yep. The next award we have is the Technically Undefeated Award, which goes to Team Liquid. First time in the LCS we've had an undefeated split. And,
regular season.
Regular season. You can throw an asterisk in there because they lost some games, but they did not lose a series. They went 7-0, which is technically undefeated.
And
they
were pretty close. They just needed one more series, and they would have had the undefeated run all through the whole split.
And honestly, we felt like they still deserved an award because obviously they're all feeling this crushing defeat, and especially losing the game that way feels like it was kind of taken away from you, and they put in so much work all split long. We also glazed them a lot all split long, so they got a lot of good
And 4
feelings
out of the
and
5 of
good
them
press out of
got
it.
first team All Pro,
Yeah.
and they got coach of the split, so they got some awards.
They got plenty of awards.
Some
Yeah, and-
awards. Yeah, pipe down, TL.
Yeah, because a lot of times people just remember who won the entire thing, but it is worth mentioning, like you said, that the whole split, everyone was just so high on Team Liquid. Every single team talked about them. The way that they played was just so controlled. And granted, it didn't work out in the end in the finals, but just throughout the whole split, they just showed such a consistently high level of play that definitely deserved.
And that's why I think everyone going into Worlds, at least that I've talked to, still has quite a bit of faith in them, right? Because they're like, we've seen so much evidence that this is a really good team that, one series where they didn't play to their level doesn't really bother people.
It's funny because you're also mentioning like how early we were talking about TL having the undefeated split. And I remember like the first time I brought it up on the dive was because Spawn had mentioned it to me. So it was definitely on their minds pretty early because he was like, oh, yeah, and then the Cloud9 series, probably whoever wins that is going to go for this undefeated split. No one's ever done it before. And I was like, oh, okay. So it really, even though they're trying to remain focused and, not be distracted too much, it's something that's on your mind, setting records and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and rightfully so. I think it's really cool to get those accomplishments. It's not their main goal, right? Their main goal was to win, but if you can accomplish that along the way, it is very cool. Next award here is the 6th Man Award, and that's got to go to the FlyQuest minions, baby. They got it done when no one else could.
Best Winions.
They needed it too, but after losing that team fight, I was like, oh my goodness, how did TL just save this game? So congratulations to the FlyQuest minions on your award. I saw FlyQuest Twitter account also immediately tweeted out that, welcome, they're signing the FlyQuest Super Minion number 2 specifically to
Got
the
a
team.
shout out from Busio as well in the
There you go.
post-game interview, so off to a promising career for the FlyQuest minions.
Our next award is a very famous award. This is an award that we have had since the very beginning of the DIVEYS. And a lot of thought goes into this award, and we reach out to the players to get votes for this award.
This was on the All-Pro ballot. Everyone could vote.
On the All-Pro ballots, in the past, we have reached out to the teams individually. We have gotten interviews from the players on this award, and the award winner for Player Most Deserving of an Award this year is Sven. Congratulations. Tomo is the runner-up, but Sven, really great job. As voted on by all of the other pros and all of us. Congratulations.
Congratulations on deserving an award.
Yeah, congratulations. There's a lot of talk about Sven being a positive piece of his team, so well-deserved of that award, which has been unspecified.
The
All
LCS is just better when he's in, whether it's doing content or playing. It's just good to have him here.
Absolutely. I would agree. Next one on the list here is the biggest upset. And I think this one is a little bit obvious. There's only one team that really could win. It's got to be 100 Thieves. They took down Cloud9. All split long. It's the big 3 this. It's the big 3 that. We already know our teams that are going to Worlds. It's just what's the order going to be? Who's going to win the title? And 100 Thieves kind of flipped the script.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks as a C9 fan for sure, but credit 200 Thieves. They did manage to get the win, and whether you want to say C9 choked or 100 Thieves overperformed, either way, it was still the biggest upset, and they made it to Worlds.
I love how we got both perspectives on this award because there's so many Cloud9 fans. I believe it is the team in the league that has the most fans now ever since TSM left. And so there are a bunch of people with that perspective of just like, oh man, because this is another story of a super team. I feel like we have had so many super teams fail in spectacular ways. Very recently, it was FlyQuest themselves with the super team that failed in a very spectacular way. Now they're champions, this time around. But the formulas I think that teams have gone after have really started to change, and 100 Thieves kind of represent a little bit of that. In that, you knew that River's an extremely good player, and Quid had previously won MVP and is an extremely good player, but they hadn't been performing that well this split. And they do have a lot of very young players on their team, and they actually even required an emergency substitution to bring their series back. And so this is such a big underdog story for 100 Thieves that is also very wholesome, because they do have a lot of very wholesome personalities on their team, not just Sniper that everyone loves, but I personally also love Quid's like whole persona, how we started out our series or summer preview with the Quid trash talk or whatever that they did in the opener, where he's just like trying his best to follow Golden Glue and saying some sort of trash talk, and he's just so nice about it. There's just I don't know, it's a wholesome like underdog story for them. So feel really good for them. Obviously feel really terrible for Cloud9. You mentioned their faces and how they looked after that series, but the expectations were for sure for them to win and go to Worlds, and they must be devastated.
Yep, and this kind of ties in with the next award, which is the tried so hard, but in the end it didn't even matter award.
It does tie in a little with this award, doesn't it?
It does. The winner of this one is C9 Jack, because, it's a bittersweet one. Because, I mean, it's hard to fault C9 for the roster moves they made coming into the split. It really seemed like, they're bringing in Thanatos, this crazy up-and-coming rookie straight out of Korea, really, really lane-dominant player. They got JoJo, who is one of the most...
He was the most sought-after player, I think, in the league coming into this year.
Yeah.
I heard rumors his biggest contract of the...
I heard biggest contract. I heard he got LEC and even an LCK offer.
Yeah.
This and they even brought in Reapered, who all the C9 fans wanted Reapered back.
Yep, they brought in Vulcan, who they've had success with. So, I mean, all the pieces were there, and it's unfortunate they didn't come together. But, and Jack did his best. The C9 fans can't be upset with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and
props to Jack.
That it's the tough thing about competition, right? Is that it's like you have to peak at that moment when it matters most. And even Spawn said this after C9 got eliminated. He said 2 weeks ago he thought they were the best team in the league, right? And that's one of these things that it's like, okay, you have the wrong meta read or wrong drafts, or you have your players just have an off day or whatever. That can be that. That's the end of it, right? You don't get a lot of second chances in competitive play, and it just didn't work out for him. Next award here. This is the Best Baron Thief Award, Kobe.
Yeah, this is one that I thought of when we were thinking of answers for best play of the split. And in my mind, I know I always am jungle focused, but the immediate best plays that I thought of were River Baron steals. And I was like, it's not just one Baron steal where he had the one where him and Tomo went in, and Tomo Misfortune ult them away from the Baron and got it lower, and then he goes in with Viego and he ult smite steals it to save the game for them. Then he has the Lilia one where I think it was a Renekton charging, either a Renekton or a Cassante. Some top laner is charging at him to push him away from the Baron.
Cassante. It was Licorice, wasn't it?
And then he throws his Lilia seed over him to hit the other people as he's getting pushed away, puts them to sleep, so the DPS on the Baron stops, and he has time to come back and go in and steal it, and they get the kills and win the team fight. And I was like, Those are some of the best plays of the split, and they were also, it's just so fitting for him to be on 100 Thieves, and he's just stealing away these Barons and wins from the other teams. So congratulations, River, for some...
Baron Thief, I see what you did there. That's a good one, Kobe. That's a good one.
Thank you. I just thought towards the end of the split, he had truly exceptional play. The beginning of the split was not good from him or the rest of 100 Thieves. But I have always felt like he is just such a good jungler that I was really happy to see him, performing that well again and going to Worlds.
And I feel like all the other junglers in the league, when you talk to them, give him that credit, right? Like, it was funny when we were watching the C9 100 Thieves series, when I was watching it with Inspired, like some good play would happen for 100 Thieves, and he's like, wait, how did that happen? It had to be some magic from River. I need to see the replay. and it'd be like River finding some, drifting Sejuani ult or just whatever, right? But yeah, a lot of the junglers do give him credit for, being really creative, for being such a playmaker. And he's someone that is one of those rare junglers that I think can look really good on a really good team and can still look really good on a bad team. And I don't think there's that many players who can be that adaptable and play, at a really, really high level in all these different styles to just suit whatever the team needs. And it feels like he can do that.
Yep.
All right, next one we've got is another special award, the Jhinsanity Award. I guess you can speculate where this one is going, but I
cannot actually, no.
Well, Isaac, this one is actually going to go to Insanity for playing Jhin mid and actually making it look good.
Oh my word. That just woke everyone up.
You just gave me a heart attack. There is picking off meta.
It's deserving of a celebratory horn.
There's picking off meta, and then there's picking off meta and dumping on people with it. And it was like, not only was it really fun and gonna
Solo killed Jensen, didn't he?
He just absolutely stomped. It was so cool to watch and inspired me to pick up a Jhin game in my FlexQ lobby where everyone immediately started flaming me, and I was not so lucky as him as to win that game.
Lucky.
But
yes.
Sorry to hear that, man.
I remembered it forever though, so he gets an award.
Congratulations,
All right.
Mr. Insanity.
Next one here is the Best Play of the Split Award. We already did that one. We have this in twice because we did the TL one. I guess this was the runner-up for it, so we'll skip past that one. Next one here is going to be the Sorry You Didn't Get an Award. And this is going to go to a player who I think a lot of people, were trying to give credit to and were complimentary of, but there was always someone else that was kind of, getting the flowers. This is going to go to Boogie, who subbed in, made such a difference for his team. I think everyone agreed that he really did help Shopify turn the corner. It wasn't enough, and it wasn't early enough to get them to playoffs or to kind of get any of those big things or to get him into All-Pro, because the top three junglers, I think, really were deserving. But this was one of the only people in the whole league that I was even considering outside of the top three teams for All-Pro. And it felt like he definitely deserved that recognition. So I really wanted to kind of give him something here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's rare you can have such a blatant example of a player's contribution to their team, because Shopify's early season, like their first 3 weeks with Tomio, were so rough. And it's not even like you can't put that all on Tomio, but it just shows that when Boogie came back into the team, they had so much more direction, and he just had some really good brand games as well. So definitely like a super obvious case of him just, elevating his team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tomio was the problem, but he also wasn't the solution, right? Boogie came in.
Boogie was the solution.
Exactly.
Though.
Like he, they were talking about like how much shot calling he was able to do. So it wasn't even just about how he's playing on an individual level. It's about really what he brought to the team, like so much more direction, how he had the confidence and the aggression to like just make plays happen and get things going for this team. Because in the early weeks, Shopify was looking like one of the worst teams we've seen in LCS history, right? Like they just weren't being proactive. They weren't able to find those plays, and Boogie really brought them that direction. So definitely, I think, an impressive split for him, even though didn't end how he would have wanted.
Yeah. So I'm glad that he gets this award, because he also was like a runner-up for our next award, which was the Super Substitute Award. Super Sub Tomo just barely stole it away from him, which is another case of like, oh my God, Boogie did so much for Shopify and like saved their season. But then Tomo comes in and he saves 100 Thieves season harder and more. And then they also get to go to Worlds. And so Tomo is going to be our winner for the Super Sub Award. It also is one of those cases where sometimes you get a substitute and then, the coach and the team are talking about his shot calling also and his effect on the rest of the team. But like we said, we saw better play from all the other members on 100 Thieves too. It's not like Tomo was the one only like hard carrying all their games and stuff and the only reason that they got to where they were. But he did have an immediate impact, and the entire team looked so much better when he subbed in. So these two awards are kind of paired together. Congratulations to Tomo as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it is super unlucky for Boogie because he was absolutely in the running for that, and then Tomo just came in, and it's like, you can't give it to Boogie over Tomo there just because, he's like an NA talent player. He's been in the LCS before, and he never really stood out as that like insane of a 1v9 player, but he went back to tier 2, comes back up to LCS, answers the call for 100 Thieves. They were struggling. He came in and just had so many good performances. His Ziggs, his Kai'Sa, just across the board.
And I think it's a good example again of how much your circumstance matters, like how much your surrounding matters, right? Because if you sub in, you can look awful on the wrong team. If you sub in at the right time on the right team, you really can have a big impact. And sometimes it can be the same player, but just in a different circumstance can look 1,000 times better. So I do think it's another example that you can't just blanket judge a player based on like one attempt or one appearance in the LCS.
Yep. That's going to bring us to our next award, which is the One Hit Wonder Award, which is going to go to Energy. Congratulations to them. They had an amazing summer split of last year.
It was a banger.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Need we talk about their 2-0 victory over G2?
We must.
Putting North America on the map internationally. It was just such a great performance last year by them.
It's one that I will continue to rewatch and relive.
Yeah,
for quite some time.
I think it's safe to say now that it won't be repeated this year.
That's bold.
Yeah, and
maybe not more bold than the predictions that landed us where we are here today, but it is bold.
Yeah. I mean, and part of this award comes from in the beginning of the year, Energy had a lot of interviews and social posts about people were saying it was a fluke last year and they were like ready to shut everyone up, and they couldn't really get it done this year. Unfortunately, it did seem to be a fluke a little bit, unfortunately for them. And
go ahead, sorry.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's unlucky. It happens. Sometimes it doesn't come together, but
great call by the haters. Honestly,
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. The haters said we couldn't do it. And the haters were right. Great call by the haters, honestly. It was like
haters kind of ate with that one.
100 Thieves tweeted that out after they got 3-0'd by FlyQuest, which I was like, all right, respect.
Yeah.
That's
what you have to do in that situation. You can't like pretend it's
you gotta respect someone who can take the L.
Yeah, you have to be able to. It's way more fun. Our last award for this DIVEYS here is definitely a prestigious one, and it's the Let's Get You to Bed Grandpa Award. And this one, who else could it go to but Dignitas? Congratulations, Dignitas.
Congrats.
We gathered together some of the most experienced pros from around the league, many titles, many accolades to their names. And a lot of people thought that they could be able to get it done, maybe be able to go to Worlds, make something big happen. But they're going to have lots of time to rest up in the offseason now.
The thing is, though, to their credit, they came together only in summer this year, so they didn't have as much time as every other team.
They need a Dignitas
and
year, not just a season.
Yes, I think a little more time they could have cooked. And also, they took 100 Thieves to Game 5, where it was almost just completely in their hands to win. And if not for the curse of the Dignitas Baron, which has been going on for a decade plus, it's
a strong curse.
It's really not even their fault that it happened.
Yeah, actually.
But damn, did it happen. Like, that was just the craziest Baron throw of all time.
It's a good point.
It's a good night for
them. And when
them.
you think about it, and you use the kind of that sort of logic, 100 Thieves, they were closer to being 100 Thieves than Cloud9 was. So really, they were also better than Cloud9.
Yeah.
So
they're fourth. So fourth is really good for grandpas.
Yeah. They got that old man strength.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. That does it for our fifth annual
however many it's been.
Split DIVEYS. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back, and we'll talk about the finals recap.
Hello?
Bro, what are you parking?
Seriously, what is that?
Remote smart parking assist. You could have parked anywhere.
They could have parked there. They could have parked there. They could have parked there.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. It's time to talk about finals weekend here. Congratulations, first off, to FlyQuest. almost everyone, it felt like, was predicting against them, against TL. You know, I think people thought it was going to be a really close series, but it felt like going into the weekend, everyone was looking at TL. But we can start, of course, with that first match. It was FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. That was that Friday match that they had to go up against. This one, definitely people were thinking FlyQuest would win, but it was, I think, even more dominant maybe than expectation.
Yeah, that one didn't seem too surprising to really anyone. FlyQuest, especially coming off their most recent match against Liquid, where, like we were saying, the whole split, basically, Liquid has just looked like the clear first place team, and now FlyQuest was actually contesting them, going blow for blow. So not a huge surprise that they took down 100 Thieves like that.
But we did also have the spark where we just got surprised with them beating Cloud9. And so there was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm still going to predict FlyQuest, but I'm open to the possibilities of more surprises now with this 100 Thieves roster. And 100 Thieves, all of their interviews after they did beat Cloud9 were like, wow, yeah, we didn't expect to win either, but now I feel like we can beat anybody. And I was kind of like, you know what? I had you at very almost no chance before, but now I'm like, yeah, there are some percentages there, some smaller, maybe single-digit percentages.
Oh, there is a world.
Chances, but there is a world there, and so I feel like I had more hope for their series versus FlyQuest than maybe I rightfully should have because of their big upset that they just came off of, and then FlyQuest really put them in the dumpster, and so I felt like I got crushed harder because of that. It's like they gave me the real nice spark of joy and spark of hope because they actually played really well versus Cloud9. And, I thought they were going to push FlyQuest harder, but FlyQuest just came in absolutely steamrolled. I think that one is a super short review as far as that series does go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the top gap this series was pretty massive.
Oh, yeah.
Sniper had a really rough time against Whippo. I saw one really good comment in response to Sniper's interview before the series where he said, I've been watching Impact since I was 7 years old. Someone was saying, maybe you should have been watching Whippo since you were 7 years old because he got completely smoked. It was a rough one for them. And I mean, it wasn't all on Sniper. Their whole team just kind of got rolled. FlyQuest played really well, but yeah, almost every single game, Sniper was just having a super rough time.
Yeah, and I mean, even when he did have his good moments, I think FlyQuest just showed they knew how to play the map way better. Like the Jax game, if I recall, he had some pretty good moments early and was able to get himself in a pretty good spot. And then it's like, fast forward later on in the game, he's getting Flame Horizon and he's down 2-3 levels, right? And I think FlyQuest just showed the difference in how much better they knew how to play the map, where they could actually get away with going to side lanes and collecting more XP and collecting more minions. And I think 100 Thieves got in this weird cycle of, oh, we need to group because they might engage, we can't go to side, and then, oh, we're behind, so we can't go to side, so we need to group and make a play. You know what I mean? It just kind of kept being this reinforced play where they kept overgrouping, they kept trying to force, they kept trying to make these things happen, and they were just falling further and further and further behind. And then FlyQuest would give them that fight, but only kind of when they wanted it and when they were massively ahead, and then they would kind of get blasted.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think happens more on, weaker teams is just that it comes from the pressure, right? When you're playing against a good team and you're behind, you feel that pressure, and the pressure's telling you, okay, I don't want to be the reason my team loses because I went to this side lane and my team got engaged on and died. So you end up grouping, but by doing that, it's just making the game so easy for the other team to play. They say, hey, their top laner is not farming for the entire game. He's just standing with them, so I'm just going to keep getting more and more ahead. And so it's definitely something that just comes with a lot of experience, knowing it's personal for the top laner, but also the rest of the team knowing, hey, we can't just ARAM the entire time. We do actually need to get, more resources and whatnot to come back to this game. So, yeah, I mean, it was tough, but it happens.
Yeah, and it's something where you're trying to avoid the big loss. And so you end up making more small losses, but then the small losses all just add up to a big deficit that then you can't really overcome later. And I thought that FlyQuest were just so smart in their drafts in this series as well as their execution. Able to get Whippo some pretty nice leads in a couple of them pretty early on, and then they utilize that. And then they would constantly have an early push on the side lane, and then 100 Thieves are going to have to sacrifice. Oh, you sacrifice one wave here, one wave there. That experience really adds up. That gold really adds up. And like you're saying, then they're willing to fight you because then they've accrued this very nice item lead for themselves. And then the cherry on the top was the final game. I was just like, oh my goodness, this red side draft from FlyQuest, when 100 Thieves they were up against the wall. They're like, oh, we're elimination, right? So we're going to have to throw something crazy, and we're going to go this all in, like Yasuo, Zach, bounce comp, and we're going to have
I love that combo for the record. I think that's the best Yasuo setup.
And they pair it with the Kalista Senna bottom lane, which I also thought was like, oh wow, this is a good like, oh, we're super desperate, like we need to change it up and try and go something super aggressive. But the answer was just so much better when you have Ivern pretty early in the draft, and then they red 5'd an Olaf into it, and you're looking at like a Zach ganks you as Olaf, and you're just eating them both. It was I saw it was so well done, and so like nail in the coffin. I felt like that after this series, I was super hyped for the finals for FlyQuest versus TL because they were looking so good going into it. And because FlyQuest have historically really fought Team Liquid very, very closely. So
yeah,
I actually really, even though this was a super stomp, I felt like it did a lot to uplift and kind of promote the finals match that then we had right after.
Especially, I just feel like Whippo is one of those players where I felt like he had actually a really rough split overall, compared to his normal level. He still got 13 All-Pro, but like he just wasn't looking as good individually. And I feel like he's such a confidence-based player that the fact that he brought out some different picks and, really succeeded on them, I think was something that boded really well for finals.
Yeah, going off that, I think one thing that stuck out to me a lot in this series was the Game 2 Rumble pick, because Rumble is, a champion that's been super high prio, banned most games throughout this entire split globally. And 100 Thieves was actually baiting Whippo into playing Rumble because they were making the read that he can't play it, which that happens with some players. Sometimes there's just a champion you don't gel on. It happens, right? And so, 100 Thieves left it up, and it wasn't even just they left up Rumble. They were hovering Rumble in draft. They like blinded Jax knowing that you could pick Rumble into it, which is not a good lane matchup, right? And they're just saying like, yo, I know you don't play this, man. Like just don't even pick it. And then Whippo did pick it. It started out a little rough, got killed in lane, but then he was able to bring it back and just completely run over the game. So I think that was probably a really big moment for Whippo, just like being able to play that champion that maybe you don't have the most confidence on, and
and dominate on it.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to bring up another topic that is a little bit more holistic, which people tend to latch onto when there's a bunch of lower bracket wins. This, of course, was not a 100 Thieves second, another upset or something. But we constantly have had teams in the lower brackets upsetting this time around, and they actually won more games than the upper bracket teams from this playoffs. It's an interesting topic as far as play-ins also. When you have tournament formats, people talk about play-ins buff of being able to have more stage games and being able to have more warm-up time and play against weaker teams because they're in the lower bracket ahead of time on stage, and all of this kind of just accumulates into maybe more practice time / more confidence. If it's a lot of little things that actually do benefit teams and contribute to some of our lower bracket wins or gauntlet runs and stuff like that. And I'm kind of on the side that either going through play-ins or going through a lower bracket or something, it can be quite beneficial to teams. The drawback is you have more stage games that your opponent is waiting for you and studying, and that's a fair point. But
potential burnout if it's
potential
really
burnout, more footage to study. How many strategies can you keep close to your chest when you actually you're the one facing elimination? So you kind of have to show everything if you're getting pushed. But honestly,
you could be Mad Lions.
Wow.
That's a big potential drawback if you're in play-ins.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I was playing pro, like I never cared about seeding whatsoever because I just always go into it with the opinion like if you're good enough to win, you'll win, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter who you have to play through. If you're holding your breath, waiting to see how other teams do, and really freaking out over the draw or what seed you get, I'm like, you don't have the confidence to win if you care about that. I think you just go into it and say, like, if you're the best team, you will beat anyone, so it doesn't matter.
I fully agree with that. Where I will say it can make a difference, and this is where format comes into a lot. It's like, especially in like a single limb bracket, like how Worlds used to be, it's like that often crowned the best team, but it didn't often crown the second best team. You know what I mean? Where bracket could really come into play because you could have the two best teams on the same side of bracket or whatever, right? So it's like in theory, if you get a really bad draw, you could play the best team in the tournament in a single limb format in the first round, and then you're out in like potentially 8th place or whatever, right? When really you could have maybe made it to the finals.
And it sucks you don't get those world skins for being the second best team.
It's true. You don't get those world skins. But either way, it was definitely a really dominant first series. Then obviously on Saturday we had the finals. Let me just say the finals opening ceremony, shout out to everyone who worked on the opening ceremony. I thought it absolutely kicked ass. When we all got to like walk out and be on stage and be part of it, which was really, really cool. I honestly had like no idea what was going on during that time. So like I didn't get like live. I didn't get to really see anything. We were all just like lemmings just following each other. And I knew we were going to go to the wrong side or something, like some lineup was going to get screwed up because they got us in lines, right? But like everyone just knows the person ahead of them that they're following. So I don't know who was at the front of my line, but we went to the wrong side of the stage.
Oops.
And then they get there and our PA comes over, Joel's there. He's like, you're supposed to be on the B side. And everyone's like, which side is the B side? Like, I don't know which side that is. So we were on the wrong side. So we're like running over to the other side. And then we come out. But it was really, really cool moment. And I went back and watched it after. And like the opening ceremony was sick. I can't remember the name of the artist, the singer, but she was amazing. The person who sings Warriors, she was incredible. I thought the whole idea was really cool. I loved it. I thought the opening ceremony absolutely kicked ass. It was really, really good, really, really epic. Felt like it did honor to LCS's history without taking away from the moment for the players on stage. So yeah. I thought it was really cool, and the setup on stage was sick for us casting. Was super cool. We get to like kind of be in the middle and like looking out on this packed place full of fans and getting to feed off their energy and see their energy was like amazing. So I just thought finals was awesome.
It was an exceptional finals. I mean, you mentioned the energy. Also, when we showed the fan cams at the very beginning of the first game, and there's the Team Liquid fans are already up in their seats already. There was a guy with a beer in his hand, really freaking out.
People were enjoying their adult beverages.
One of the fans that they showed at the very beginning had actually come up to us after the FlyQuest 100 Thieves series.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just this mega TL fan. He had, just dripped out in TL stuff. And he was even dripped out in TL stuff at that, third place match. And had been like coming up to us. He was like, oh yeah, get a picture. And his wife that was with him was like, he is always like this. He is always at like 12 on the scale with these, League of Legends events. And then we saw him on camera the next day.
Popping off.
And he was popping off. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's him. He is at a 12 all the time.
Yeah, the game hadn't even started. He was out of his seat. He's like, I'm like, you know what? Respect. I love those kind of fans, man.
That's great.
Like, seeing the people absolutely popping off, seeing some of the people, like there's some people that you see like every week of LCS, they're at the finals, they're making signs, they're doing like, they're living it up. So it was really, really fun. Also getting to meet a lot of the fans was awesome. Went up to FanFest on the finals day and took a ton of pictures and met a lot of people. And people are always, one thing also, shout out to maybe some of you who are listening, because I'll say the number one thing that gets said to me whenever I do fan meets or like Flowers and I often at finals will go out to FanFest and we'll take a bunch of pictures for an hour or something before a show or whatever. And almost every person who comes up, like the first thing they say is about the dive. They're always like, I love the dive, man. Like I listen every week. Like you guys do a great job. Like people who listen to the dive are so loyal to the show and are obviously really into the LCS. And it's like always the first thing they want to talk about. They want to say, oh, what are you guys gonna predict? Oh, your episode's coming out for Worlds, and like people always have a question about it, which I always really, really appreciate too. So shout out to all you who maybe I met some of you guys this week, and I definitely met a lot of you over the years at these different events.
We forgot our most prestigious award, actually, Best Fans in the World Award. to the Dive fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So big shout out to all the fans. Always really appreciate that. It's really cool that people are excited enough and like the show, want to come up and say hi or say they like the show or take a picture or whatever, have you sign something. It's definitely really rewarding. It's awesome.
Yeah, the whole finals was just so fun. The fans were amazing. Getting to see and talk to, especially all of the older pro players too, was so fun. You're talking about like the disorganization before going on stage. It's because for the full hour leading up to this show, we were all just crammed in a room and everyone's like summer camp, like, oh, hey, haven't seen you in a long time. Oh, hey. And you're like talking
It's a
to
high
each
school
other.
reunion. It's actually a high school reunion.
Yeah, it was so fun. And so then we go from like an hour of just like catching up and talking to your friends and stuff to like, oh yeah, finals starting. Let's focus. Back on the games and stuff.
Yeah, Bjerg came out of hiding wherever he's been. I talked to him a little bit. He said he was touching grass. I don't really know what that means. Like doing real life stuff. He did say he played one game of League in the past few months.
That's all it takes.
He's getting hooked. He's definitely going to come back for another fix sometime.
That's cool. It was definitely great to see everyone there. The games, I think were pretty exciting. It did feel like FlyQuest was running the show for the most part. And it was interesting to me that the one game that TL won was in the least TL draft by far, right? It was the first ever Melee mid this year. I didn't actually check if it was the first one of APA's career, but he had not played a single Melee mid this entire year. I don't know if he played one in Summer Split last year. That's something I couldn't actually remember. But yeah, like he brings out the Nasus. That's the one game they win in this kind of like very different style. It felt like where they were playing really heavy split push. Impact was playing Jax that game, if I recall, as well, and was having a really, really good game. So it's like Impact on a carry, APA on a melee carry, 1-3-1, winning through sides. All the games they lost were in that stereotypical TL blueprint with, like scaling carry mid and bot, a bunch of engaged tanks around them. And it was interesting to me how FlyQuest was able to, really kind of crack the code and take down TL at the style that they have really perfected. I don't think TL played their absolute best games. And I have to give an immense amount of credit to Inspired because I thought the jungle gap was like insane in this series, like absolutely insane. When he was on the, power farming AP jungler side of these matchups of like, and Umpty is playing a tank or Umpty is playing whatever, Inspired is up like 3 levels. He's flame horizoning him. He's just like running the entire show. Then, in the final game when Umpty busts out the Lilia and he gets the takeaway, Inspired's on Ivern. Inspired is still up in XP, and still like kind of having that bigger impact. And it was just one of those things where it was like, it just felt like Inspired had him checkmated. Like he was just better at everything in that series and was just such a difference maker.
Yeah, and I think Inspired does deserve credit because he's someone that has actually been under a lot of criticism, kind of gets that villain title because, there have been some interviews where he seems like a very direct, blunt person.
Yep.
And, I've seen comments saying like, oh, he takes credit for all their success and he deflects the blame to all of his teammates. And like sometimes it does kind of seem that way, but at the same time, he could just be right. And based on his performances across so many different teams and time and just what everyone says about him and watching him play, maybe he just is right about those things. Sometimes you are playing really well and you're the reason your team's winning and your teammates are trolling you. Like that can actually happen. And, it's not the humble PR response that we're used to, but I really appreciate his directness and just, the way he says it how it is. And he continues to perform really well with different teammates, different teams. It's clear he's just a super good jungler.
Yeah, I think I respect the most his flexibility. Being willing, because he was labeled with the CEO of Full Clear title, and people memed on him for just tunneling on I'm going to carry power farming junglers. But even before this, early on in playoffs, he was very willing to spam Ivern every single game and play towards bottom lane. And then also, like, there has been an evolution in the interviews. In the pros episode I liked the most, him and I believe Busio was with him, were talking so much about how they want to play around Quad, and Quad is so good, and he wants to like give more support and resources to Quad. But like Quad wasn't asking for them enough and wasn't like a selfish enough player. And so very clearly, he whether it was always the case or whether it was an evolution that took place, he is very willing to go all in for another teammate. And I think this was evidence even as early as when he was on EG. And if you remember the EG strategy where they had Danny and he would like usher Danny around and he'd be like, Danny, take my Raptors. Danny, take this top wave. I'm gonna help you push out and make sure that you have vision. I feel like he has, in a lot of different points in his career, also played for other players on his team. And so, when we have all these stories bouncing around with some of the flame and all this stuff, I'm like, I take it with a grain of salt. And sometimes, you're caught up in the moment or whatever. And I just feel like him also playing solo queue as only mid laner or bottom laner and learning other roles and stuff helps out so much too. So I always respect that, like, holistic view of the game, because like Canyon, who's my jungle goat of all time, is like amazing flex player and stuff too, and I feel like that really does help your overall game.
And I think it's just like both things can be true. You know what I mean? Like you can be a villain and you can still be
an
incredible,
asshole sometimes,
right? Like yeah, exactly. Like everyone is sometimes. Maybe he is more than most, right? But like doesn't mean that he's not an incredible player. And I've never thought that he wasn't one of the best junglers. Like he really has proven that, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I think there's times where, yeah, he can come off as abrasive, or he can come off as too direct, or, maybe insensitive or whatever. But like, that's also fine. I want players to like be themselves and say what they think, right? Some players are not going to be, like talking like that. Some players are going to be more the PC kind of like safe answers. Some players are going to be more, just really kind of cutthroat and brutal with it. Some people are just going to say whatever they think. Like Sven, I think, is more whatever he thinks, but he doesn't get in hot water for the villain stuff really, because I think the way that he approaches it is different than how Inspired does it. But I like having all those differences in the league, right? I think it makes it interesting, and I think it's like you can have heroes, you can have villains, you can have people who are more controversial, and you can have differences, right? Like that's a good thing for the league and for any sport. I think it's fun to have. I mean, when you look at his most played throughout playoffs, it's Ivern and Amumu, right? So it's a very big departure from what he was playing in the regular season. People really, I think, made it a priority to deny Lilia from him for most of playoffs. And the 2 times he got it, he absolutely slammed on it. So it made sense why. But yeah, he was just such a difference maker for them in the finals. And I was really, really impressed. Did I tell the story about how he was talking about this matchup in the C9 series? Okay, I told that last time on the dive.
Well, I don't know if I've heard it a couple of times. I don't know if it was on the dive, so you can redo it if you want. Okay,
Meteos, you can tell me if I told this story already, because
I don't remember it.
Okay, so when we were watching the C9 100 Thieves series, it was the final LeBlanc game where JoJo had flash on LeBlanc, and he was against Quid, playing this mid lane matchup, and he was just talking through like wave by wave how it should go, when the person should use their spells, like when the person should be basing here, to the point where it became clear that he knew the matchup better than Quid knew the matchup. And it was like, basically at this certain point, JoJo took this trade and Quid looked like he was relatively healthy and thought he could still push it out. And Inspired's like, oh, he's about to get, like, he had to base there. He just like lost the lane. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like, let's see like if it pans out that way. And then immediately, like in the exact way that he described, JoJo solo killed him. And I was just like, okay, like that's actually really impressive, right? The fact that he knew the matchup that well, it's like I think a lot of players know generally how the matchup is meant to go, or like where there's gonna be opportunities. But he was talking like through the exact specifics of like how they need to trade, when he needs to base, like all these different things, and even to the fact that it's like, oh, he goes, oh, Quid thinks he can't die because he doesn't have Ignite here, but like LeBlanc has enough damage when he hits like level 4 or whatever it was, right? But it was like very, very specific, and I was super impressed by that. And I was asking him, I was like, well, how did you know the matchup like that well? And like Kobe was mentioning, it's like he plays only mid and bot when he queues solo queue. He said he only plays jungle in scrims, and he plays mid and bot exclusively in solo queue, and learns the matchups, and feels that helps him more than practicing more jungle in solo queue. So I was pretty impressed.
I also find it really funny that even he was like, I don't need to practice top. I'm not going up to gank that lane. You know, he chose the correct 2 lanes to learn so that he can have better influence
laners
on
don't
them.
Play the OP
Stop.
roles.
I actually think that is so funny.
Yeah, this is really funny. But yeah, I mean, FlyQuest, at the end of the day, they took the series. They got their first ever title for the organization, which is really, really cool. They've been second a number of times. Back in the PoE days, they got Power Buell got second a number of times with him. With Prince, did they get second in spring or was it third? I'm trying to remember. Because they didn't win, but they had a good spring, and then their summer was a real fall off, right?
I don't remember Prince being in the finals, but
think they
I'm
got
not
third.
I'm not totally confident on that one.
Obi's checking. But yeah, either way, that's something that the organization has been chasing for a long time. So it's cool to see, that finally pay off and see how happy, especially a lot of like the longtime FlyQuest, employees and fans and stuff were about it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it says they got second in spring with Prince, and then third in spring playoffs.
Okay, that's what I
so
thought,
it was
third,
regular season, they were second place, but then in playoffs, third.
But second this spring, third last spring, second a couple times with old Power Vivo rosters and stuff. So they've been close, but have never been able to do it, and they finally did.
Yep, and they got an award for it and a championship for it.
And yeah, I think that's about it. Unless you guys have anything else you want to touch on before we move on.
No, I
No?
think that was.
All right.
I mean, it was.
I think,
it was a good finals weekend.
Yeah, great finals weekend. Great year of the dive.
Who wants to do the honors? Do you want to do it, Meteos? Cap off your first full year of the Dive LCS?
How do I do
We
it?
have a giant confetti. I have no idea. You're going to have to look. It's a giant confetti shape.
I think it's empty.
I don't think it's empty.
It's just got glitter in it. There's not like liquid in it.
Make sure you don't blast yourself.
Oh,
So if you're on audio only, you might want to tune in for this because Meteos has a giant confetti champagne bottle.
yeah, but it might just be like for show.
No, I think it's a
He's got
confetti
glitter
thing.
on his
The producer
hands already.
Did tell me. Don't shoot yourself
Shoot me
in the face.
All right, Kobe, you do it. I don't know what's happening. My hands are full of glitter now.
Is it?
Don't aim it at me.
Bottom or the top?
Well, yeah, there's already. You just shake it out.
Yeah, be
know.
sure to tune in for that one.
How do you use a pierce foil at the top of popper? Hold firmly and then rotate in the arrows. Neither you can read.
You didn't say I had to read.
Wait, it says rotate. Here we go.
Holy.
Well, it's kind of empty
Didn't try and read.
because you
down.
dumped it all out. But
That was crazy.
But it did work.
I thought it was champagne, not
How
a
many dive hosts does it take
confetti.
to open a party popper? Turns out 3.
I was
Or
like-
only me. If I could have done it first.
I was like, there's no cover on it.
Turns out I'm the only one who can read. And I was able to do it. So that
Yeah, I'm going to read.
Reading's
Wrap it up.
overrated. Why don't you read the outro?
I'm reading it right now. That'll wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other places. Make sure to send us your questions on Twitter with the hashtag TheDiveLOL. Worlds Play-In starts September 25th at 5 a.m. Pacific time in Berlin. We will continue making episodes during Worlds, so make sure to tune in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. You can expect those episodes weekly once Worlds kicks off. We're going to be aiming for basically an episode at the end of each stage. So after play-ins, we'll do a stage. After Swiss 1, we'll do a stage, and so on and so forth. And should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it. And I think our teams might just be able to pull something off this year. So we'll see y'all there.